survival of life on earth as much the evaluation to a vegetarian diet. With these words of Albert Einstein, I, Dr. Dipali Saxena, Assistant Professor, Sri Vaishnav Institute of Home Science, welcome to all invited speakers, Dr. Pushpa Awasthi, UNICEF India, Dr. Preeti Shukla, Director, NutriNet's Health Consultancy, Professor Upinder Dhar, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapith Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, Professor Santosh Dhar, Dean, Faculty of Doctoral Studies and Research, Professor Uttam Sharma, Sir, Coordinator, Sri Vaishnav Institute of Home Science, HOIs, HODs, faculty members, all guest attendees, participants, and dear students. With this, I'd like to welcome you all in National Nutrition Week celebrations 2022 from September 1 to 7 September. At the onset of program, I would like to wish you Happy Nutrition Month 2022 to everyone. So we are talking and about nutrition every day, every minute. This is the most awaited celebration which we all waiting to celebrate. National Nutrition Week is observed every year from 1st September to 7th September to make people aware about the importance of nutrition for the human body and well-being of health. Every work remain unmoved and unconvinced without the blessings of the Almighty. To make this morning a blessed one, may I now request to technical team to invoke Goddess Saraswati by virtually kindling of lamp of knowledge and wisdom and play Saraswati Vanda. Technical team.
असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्युर्मामृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः या कुन्देन्दुतुषारहारधवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रावृता या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युतशङ्करप्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा.
Thank you. Food and nutrition is regarded as one of the indispensable aspects that leads to effective growth and development in health. Food provides the individuals with energy that is needed in the implementation of tasks and activities. In addition, the individuals are able to treat various health problems and illness. There are numerous food items which are consumed by the individuals in according to their liking and preferences. I request the technical team to play a short video on National Nutrition Week, which is created by our food and nutrition students. Yes, please, technical team.
विनापि भैषजैर्व्यर्तिः पथ्यादेव निवर्तते न तु पथ्यविहीनस्य भेषजानां शतैरपि. The meaning is, even hundreds of medicines may not work or show effect unless certain rules regarding diet are adhered to. Every living organism needs energy. We humans have food in a day. Now, all this food we eat is to obtain energy. So we can say that the food is a fuel required by the body to function properly, and for the living organism, it helps to survive. Now we can talk about nutrition. Nutrition is a process in which the food that is consumed is used for nourish the body. Nutrition is very important for a person to grow and develop normally and to remain healthy throughout the life. Good nutrition can help to reduce the risk of some diseases like heart disease, diabetes, stroke, some cancers, and to reduce high blood pressure, lower high cholesterol, and improve well-being of a person. As we all know, A good teacher is like a candle. It consumes itself to light the way for others. I'm talking about Dr. C. Gopalan sir. He is the father of nutrition in India. He was born in Chennai and he is responsible for initiating nutrition research in independent India. Gopalan sir leading a number of interventions such as the Integrated Child Development Services, the Midday Meal Scheme for school children, or the Goiter Prevention Program, etc. Dr. Gopalan sir was awarded with many awards like Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan, and International Union of Nutrition Science Award. His contribution to medical and nutrition science has been immense in India. In India, we celebrate National Nutrition Week every year from 1st of September till 7th of September. National Nutrition Week was initiated with the aim of improving public health and to raise awareness about nutrition and healthy eating habits among Indian people. In India, the history of National Nutrition Week dates back to 1982 when the government launched a campaign to educate individuals about the importance of nutrition. Now, the government of India launched Poshan Abhiyan in 2018 to educate people about health and nutrition as they play a significant role in overall health and development of the individual. The University Shri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya Indore in the last year 2021 under the Department of Food and Nutrition was organized 7 days National Nutrition Program. Within this, the program was graced by eminent speakers of the lecture series Come Quiz Competition from September 1 till 7 on the virtual platform to enhance the knowledge about proper health and to understand the importance of the nutrition in our day-to-day life. Thank you.
Thank you. Now it's time to start the celebration. I would like to request Professor Santosh Dhar, Dean, Faculty of Doctoral Studies and Research, to address the gathering. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dip. Honorable Vice Chancellor of Shri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Dr. Upender Dhar, the esteemed panelists for the session, Dr. Pushpa Avasthi, Nutrition Officer, UNICEF India, Dr. Preeti Shukla, Director, NutriNeeds Health Consultancy, Dr. Uttam Sharma, Coordinator of Shri Vaishnav Institute of Home Science, HOIs, HODs from constituent institutes of the university, faculty members of the institute, and students, a warm welcome to the inaugural session of National Nutrition Week celebrations. National Nutrition Week was started by the members of American Dietetic Association, now the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, in March 1973. The central government in India took initiative in 1982 to promote awareness and good health through nutrition education. The need for establishing awareness about nutrition arose because a large population of India, especially children and women, do not get basic food supply due to poverty, illiteracy, lack of awareness, and various other contributing factors. Nutrition is a basic human need and a prerequisite for a healthy life. A proper diet is essential from the very early stages of life for growth, development, and for a state of overall well-being. Foundation of an India's health is laid in individual's health is laid in early phase of life. It is a well-known fact that in some developing nations, India being one of them, nearly half of children under 5 years of age are suffering from long-term malnutrition, and many at times succumb to poor nutrition. Some recent studies have shown that sudden change in lifestyle brought about by the new normal after pandemic has also affected children with overnutrition, with they becoming overweight, which can lead to serious health problems. With 17 Sustainable Development Goals established by the United Nations in 2015, Sustainable Development Goal 3 is a good health and well-being to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. National Nutrition Week 2022 celebrations is aimed to create awareness about health and nutrition and make people understand the importance of nutrition for leading a healthy and productive life. Eating a well-balanced diet provides all energy you need to keep active throughout the day. The nutrients you need for growth and repair help you to stay strong and healthy. In a campaign towards nutrition resilience, this week we will have series of lectures wherein experts all over India will deliberate upon importance of healthy eating, how to make proper and smart dietary choices to keep ourselves free from diet-related illnesses. We are sure that each one of us present here will have a lot of takeaways for keeping ourselves healthy and smarter. With these words, once again, a warm welcome to all present here. Thank you. Over to Dr. Dipali.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, without taking any pause, I would like to request Professor Upinder Dhar, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Shri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, to consecrate the event by his inspirational words. Sir.
Good morning to all our distinguished speakers, Madam Pushpa Avasthi, Dr. Shona Jacob, Dean Research, Coordinator Dr. Uttam Sharma, all directors, coordinators of this program, and my dear friends. Now, it has already been shared that why this week, or even in some cases this month, is celebrated or various series of activities are performed. Seeing the importance of nutrition, even in United Nations in 2015, when 17 Sustainable Development Goals were set up, very second goal refers to zero hunger. So hunger, and to overcome this state is very important. After decades of steady decline, the number of people who suffer from hunger, as measured by the prevalence of undernourishment, began to slowly increase again in 2015. Current estimates show that nearly 690 million people, 690 million people are hungry, or 8.9% of the world population, up by 10 million people in 1 year and by nearly 60 million in 5 years. The world is not on track to achieve zero hunger by 2030. So if we go by the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, 17 Sustainable Development Goals, we are supposed to achieve these goals by 2030. But if we see the statistics and also the setback due to COVID-19, the world is not on track to achieve zero hunger by 2030. We're already in 2022. Only 8 years are left. If recent trends continue, the number of people affected by hunger would surpass 840 million by 2030. According to the World Food Program, 135 million suffer from acute hunger, largely due to man-made conflicts, climate change, and economic downturns. The COVID-19 pandemic would now, because of COVID, it could double the number. putting an additional 130 million people at risk of suffering acute hunger. With more than 250 million people potentially at the brink of starvation, swift action needs to be taken to provide food and humanitarian relief to the most at-risk regions. I'm not talking only of India. So it is the world over, the situation world over. And at the same time, a profound change of the global food and agriculture system is needed if we are to nourish the more than 690 million people who are hungry today. And the additional 2 billion people the world will have by 2050. By 2050, it is estimated that we may have additional 2 billion people. Increasing agricultural productivity and sustainable food production are crucial to help alleviate the perils of hunger. The World Food Assistance Program provides a critical lifeline to 87 million vulnerable people across the world. Their analysis of the economic and food security implications of the pandemic outlines the potential impact of COVID-19 on the world's poorest population. In the light of pandemic's effects on the food and agricultural sector, prompt measures are needed to ensure that food supply chains are kept alive to mitigate the risk of large shocks that have a considerable impact on everybody, especially on the poor and the most vulnerable. In order to address these risks, FAO, that is the Food and Agriculture Organization, urges countries to 1. Meet the immediate food needs of their vulnerable populations. 2. Boost social protection programs. 3. Keep global food trade going. 4. Keep the domestic supply chain gears moving. And lastly, that's the 5th, support smallholder farmers' ability to increase food production. The United Nations Global Humanitarian Response Plan lays out steps to fight the virus in the world's poorest countries and address the needs of most of the vulnerable people. So as we know, COVID-19 has not fully gone. World Health Organization has yet to declare it as gone. It is still around. Therefore, we need to be very careful. So now, before I stop, I would like to give a few highlights which we need to keep in mind. One, which I have already mentioned, that is current estimates are that nearly 690 million people are hungry, or 8.9% of the world population. That is up by 10 million people in 1 year and by nearly 60 million in 5 years. Already I have made this point, but I am deliberately highlighting it. We need to pay attention. 2, the majority of the world's undernourished 381 million are still found in Asia. It is maximum number is still in Asia. More than 250 million live in Africa. So 381 million are in Asia, whereas 250 million live in Africa, where the number of undernourished is growing faster than anywhere in the world. Third point, in 2019, that is just before COVID, close to 750 million, or nearly 1 in 10 people, in the world were exposed to severe levels of food insecurity. Point 4. An estimated 2 billion people, as I have already mentioned, in the world did not have regular access to safe, nutritious, and sufficient food in 2019. It is position before COVID. That means everything cannot be blamed. We cannot say everything, whatever damages are happening or have happened, it has happened because of COVID. No, these figures are before COVID. If recent trends continue, the number of people affected by hunger will surpass, as I mentioned earlier, that will surpass 840 million. Already I have mentioned 840 million by 2030, or 9.8% of the global population. It's a big number. That's why we have to be worried. 144 million children, 144 million children under the age of 5 were affected by stunting. That means growth not happening in proportion to the age in 2019. With 3/4 living in, 3/4 out of that, living in Southern Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. And lastly, in 2019, 6.9% or 47 million children under 5 years were affected by wasting or acute malnutrition, or we would say undernutrition, a condition caused by limited nutrient intake and infection. There are many more points to share, but I would not delay your interface with the experts. I know that everybody is very eager to listen to our experts, Madam Pushpa Avasthi and Sanu Jacob. So with these words, I welcome our distinguished guests once again, and all of you to this inaugural session of the National Nutrition Week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for such a knowledgeable words. Now I request to all the participants to remain on the link. We will now start our first lecture of National Nutrition Week celebration 2022. We are honored to have with us today our eminent speaker of the lecture series, Ms. Pushpa Avasthi, Nutrition Officer, UNICEF India. I request to Dr. Shweta Keshwani, Assistant Professor, Sri Vaishnav Institute of Home Science, to read the citation of Pushpa. Over to you, Shweta ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Dipali ma'am. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce Pushpa Avasthi ma'am. Pushpa Avasthi ma'am is currently working as Nutrition Officer in UNICEF Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh. Ma'am has a rich experience of over 24 years in the field of child development and nutrition. She has worked at varied capacities in UNICEF in the state of Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, and Odisha. Ma'am is a national trainer for infant and young child feeding IYCF. She has been working with UNICEF on diverse subjects around IYCF, management of children with the SEM, severe acute malnutrition, about which RVC sir has just spoke about, micronutrient supplementation, and adolescent and maternal nutrition, and many more. Now, without taking a fraction of minute, I would like to invite Pushpa Avasthi ma'am to precede this National Nutrition Week 2022 celebration by enlightening all of us with her valuable session on the most important issue, first 1,000 days with focus on complementary feeding. Over to you, Pushpa ma'am.
Thank you so much. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Loud and clear? Okay, thank you so much. My presentation is also audible in a presentation mode?
Yes, ma'am.
It's in presentation mode, or you can see a
Now
slide share?
PPT, a slide share. Ma'am.
No, in presentation mode or not? Because
No,
I
ma'am,
cannot
it is
see-
not. It is not in.
It is not coming, huh?
Presentation mode. It's not
Now I
coming in
think it's
slide
coming.
show.
It's come. It has come now, I think. Can you see it now? Can you see it now in the presentation mode?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Good morning and respected dignitaries and students. I prepared this presentation in Hindi thinking about our student and the official language used in the state. In our office, we do communicate and use English as a language, but while working with the government, mostly we use Hindi as a language. So I prepared the presentation in Hindi, but I will be speaking in Hindi and English. Maybe English, I can say, for the ease of everyone to understand. And as already captured by the dignitaries earlier, that National Nutrition Week is one of the opportunity to create awareness on the subject on especially on nutrition. And when we talk about nutrition, there is a period which is most crucial and critical for a child's well-being and development and growth. So that's the period which we call first 1,000 days, and that's why I have like thought of taking this subject as a subject wherein I would like to speak to everyone and discuss this topic. For for first 1,000 days, if we define first 1,000 days, it is the period from conception when a mother becomes pregnant and a woman becomes pregnant from then till the period of 2 years when the child is at of the age of 2 years after birth. So that's the period which is called 1,000 days, and that this is a period when where the brain development is maximum. 80% of the brain happens during this period. That's the reason we speak about this subject as very crucial and very critical and important, because this is a make or break period. You can make a child's personality and growth and development optimum, or you can keep the child undernourished and susceptible to NCDs and a whole lot of problems in the later stage of the life. That's why this period is very, very important. It is the foundation period when you are laying the foundation. That's why this is very critical. And we also know that you people do study in your college that this is the period up to 2 years the physical development and growth is equally very high as the brain development, but brain development 80% of it happens in the coming up slides. I will show you as the age increases how much physical and mental or brain growth happens. There is a point which we need to remember, that this is a period which has an impact, long term impact, positive or negative, depending on the type of environment we are providing to the child and the mother. Then this is irreversible. Whatever is done during this period, the impact of that is irreversible, especially for brain development. What happens is normally parents or maybe families, they get alerted after a child is 3 years old or more than 3 years, when he starts moving out of home and start going to the school or out to the nursery classes. And then they start thinking that we should give them good food, good nutrition, good care, and actually the loss has already happened by the age of 2 years. So if this awareness is created, why I'm talking about this, because you as student now is are gaining the insights into the subject and the details of the subject, and you will be the future I would say the force which is going to take up the roles of at different levels. Maybe some would be teachers or professors, some would be doctors, some would be engineers, some would be homemakers. Depending on your roles, you might be requiring this knowledge, or you can use this knowledge and information to take care of your children and the woman in your house who is pregnant or lactating. Then because of all this reason, this is the time when there are the chances of getting a child malnourished is highest, because of these factors. And if these are neglected, if the child is that the woman who is pregnant is not taken care of properly, if the child is not provided the right nutrition, the right care, the right environment, all this is going to impact the child's growth and development, and then further impacts and does results in malnutrition. Now, why we are thinking that, why do we, what is the evidence to say that this is important, why this 1,000 days are important? So we need to understand the nutritional scenario in our state. So if you look at this slide, you can clearly see that this is for under 5 children in the state of Madhya Pradesh. You can clearly see around 35 or 36% children are still stunted. Those who are जो ठीकने रह गए basically, 19% are wasted, and out of those 6.5% are severely wasted who need immediate attention and care and for their survival as well. And if you look at underweight, which is a composite index of both all these stunting, wasting, it's around 33%. Still, these many number of percentage of children in our state under 5 years of age are undernourished, I would say. Malnourishment is a very broad term which includes under and overnourishment both. So here I was talking about undernourishment. Then this slide talks about the services and the practices which are there for the early years, especially. If you look at the breastfeeding initiation in the first hour of the birth, it's only 41.3% in our state, and it has improved from 34.5 to 41.3%, but still a long way to go, as the respective dignitaries were talking about, that we have a long way to achieve the target set for SDGs and the different declarations which we have agreed to. Then if you look at exclusive breastfeeding, it has improved, but still around 25%, 26% of children are deprived of this no cost intervention which a mother has to take or the family has to take. And in similar way, if you look at timely initiation of complementary feeding, it's only 39% or maybe 40%, we can say, to round off. 40% of the children are getting this on time, that is after completion of 6 months of age, initiation of complementary feeding. And if we move towards adequate diet, when we talk about frequency, consistency, quality, all these factors and diversity, it's only 9.2% of the children who are getting this in our state. That means around 90% of our children, 91% of our children are not getting adequate diet when they start complementary feeding and then continue. Similarly, around 6.4% of children suffer from diarrhea and 2.6 from ARI. So these are the factors which do contribute in the status which we have seen previously. Along with this, there is a factor which is behind this, and that you can see in the next slide. Here is the factor which is also contributing to the poor nutritional status of the children who are in the age group less than 5 years. Here you can see around 54% or 55%, I would say 55% of the women who are in reproductive age group 15 to 49 are anemic. And you know the gamut of problems anemia bring along with it, including the problems which are created because of anemia. Then if you look at the category which is very vulnerable, which falls under the 1,000 days, that is pregnant women, you can see around 53% of them. That means every second pregnant woman is anemic. And if you look at the thinness, if we measure thinness using BMI. So if you look at thin women, so women who are thin in the reproductive age group, it is 23%. That means out of 4 women, 1 woman is thin. While if you look at the overweight or obesity, it has increased over the period, and around 17% of women in the reproductive age group are getting overweight or obese. So that's another. So now we are fighting with the triple burden of malnutrition, which includes undernutrition, overnutrition, and micronutrient deficiencies. So earlier we used to have only 2 problems, undernutrition and micronutrient deficiencies. Now it is coupled with this addition of overweight and obese to it. And if you look at all women who are anemic, um, around 58%, this is the figure for the state. If you look at the utilization of services during this 1,000 days by the women who are pregnant, so around 84.9% of the women had antenatal checkup in the first trimester in Vidisha district. But if you look at MP, it is only 70. Show you the variance between the state average and the districts. So Vidisha is one of the aspirational districts. Those are the districts which are selected by the national and government as districts which are poor performing with poor indicators. So those are the districts. So Vidisha is one of such district. Similarly, if you look at antenatal care visits, you can see first trimester they have 84.9% in Vidisha and 75% in MP, but it has reduced to 54% and 57% when it comes to 4 ANC visits. Take it. This is like I am hungry and I need 4 chapatis to completely for my hunger, but I am getting only 1 chapati or 2 chapati. So you can imagine the type of problem it can create. And if you look at the service which addresses the levels of anemia in our state, which are there to address the anemia levels, only 24.9% of the pregnant women in Vidisha district are consuming IFA for 180 days when they are pregnant. And this figure is a little better for the state of MP for the average, because there are other districts who are performing better, so the average has improved to 32%. But you can see the variance at the state and the state average and the district level. And at the same time, if you look at the institutional deliveries, it's quite high, 91% in Vidisha and MP as well, both the places. So if the institutional deliveries are so high, then why not the other services has improved? So this is the question which we need to ask. Now, these are some facts about the child with regards to length or height, which we talk about. You can see in this graph that during first year of life, there is an increase of 25 centimeter in height in the length of a child. Up to 1 year it is length, and after that it is height. Sorry, up to 2 years. So 1 to 2 years it has gone down to half, around 12 centimeters only. 3 to 5 years it's again around half, 7 centimeter. Then 5 to 9 years, between 5 to 9 years, 5 centimeter, and then again it increases a bit during adolescent period, and it increases. There is a variance between boys and girls. So 9 for the girls and 9 centimeter, and 10.3 centimeters for the boys. That means if you look at the way we can impact the height of a child, first year of their life are first year is very important. Those months during the first year are very important. Right nutrition during that period can help in achieving a height of 25 centimeters. At the time of birth, it is 57 centimeters, but if you look at by 1 year, it increases to 75 centimeters. That means it comes to 25 centimeters. This is how the slide is. So that's the point we need to remember, that by 2 years of age, a child attains 50% of an adult height. So this is the time you have determined the child's height. And this is not only height, it will be also about brain development. And we will come to the next slide on those things. I think you might be studying this in their courses, but I don't know how up to what extent. So that's why I thought of increasing this to the slides or to the presentation. If you look at the head circumference and the weight, here if you look at the weight, whatever the birth at weight, it doubles by first year, and by second year 3 times, and then by third year another 2 kgs are added, fourth year again, and then this is a type how the weight increases. But if you look at the head circumference, you can see that at birth it was 34.5. By first year it 12 centimeter increases, that it becomes 46.5. In second year, there is only an increase of 2 centimeter. That means by first year, you can see the importance of the early years we are talking about, how much it is increasing, and then slowly, gradually it decreases. So this is the time when a child's brain and the neuro functions, neuro connections are getting established, actually, I should say. This is brain growth and development. You can clearly see the graph can clearly show your peak by 1 year, and then gradually it is decreasing. Here is a picture where you can clearly see a picture of a healthy child's brain, a temporal lobes ka picture hai, and you can see clear connections here, growth, proper growth and connection, while a child who is with a stunted brain or a stunted development or growth, you can clearly see the disconnect between the lobes. So this is the time when the foundation for our human capital is established. So this period is equally important, and we need to keep this in mind, that if we want intelligent and healthy and capable adults to grow, this is the time we need to nurture the the child, actually. Now here is the neuronal pathways, which we can see, the sensory pathway, the language, the cognitive function. You can clearly see those peaks during 1 year. And if you miss this opportunity, you will be like struggling with your children in the later part when they are going to the school or college, and then you struggle with them. So if this is the condition, we need to pay more attention to a child who is less than 1 year, and then at least up to 2 years. And stunting is a condition which is established by 2 years of age, and it is associated with increased risk of cognitive impairment. So you can clearly see it here. Here you can see the body and brain development. I was talking about the comparison. At birth, you can see that 50% of the brain is, the child is born with 50% of the brain growth, physical 5%. But as the child grows, by 2 years, 75% of the brain develops. By 5 years, it's 90%, and by adult, it's 100%. So you can see the difference. While for body, you can see 5%, 25%, 40%, and then 100%. So it's a time when we should not only talk about physical growth and development, we should also talk about brain and growth and development of brain, basically mental development. So what we normally say is, when child is in mother's womb, it's under construction. This is an example we were saying. So start from conception, that is, take care of the woman who has entered into pregnancy, and it should actually start prior to that, when the woman is in reproductive age group, before pregnancy, the adolescent period. It is equally important for a woman who is going to be the future mother, would be mom. So good nutrition. Is good nutrition all about food, or does it requires other things? So this slide gives a picture of that. A child's growth development depends upon the type and quality of care which is provided to the child for his health and nutritional status to be healthy. There are 3 requisite or conditions which are essential for a good nutrition. That includes adequate and good food, adequate care, and protection from illness. All 3 conditions, if are met, the child will be healthy. But if there is any gap in any of the conditions, the child will fall into the trap of malnutrition. And when I speak about malnutrition, it can be undernutrition, overnutrition, or micronutrient deficiency. So there are few essential nutrition interventions which we all should be aware about, and it can be divided into different periods. So starting with women before and during pregnancy. There are two interventions which are important, and as I was talking about in the previous slide, it starts with from the adolescent period, and especially prevention of anemia. We all know that around 50%, that is every second girl in our state or woman in our state, is anemic. Then adequate food, nutrition, and utilization of services for those who are newlywed and those who are in the pregnancy or lactation period, that is important. So these are the two interventions which has to be kept in mind when we talk about essential nutrition interventions to be provided to a child or woman. Then when it comes to children, then it starts with early initiation of breastfeeding within 1 hour. I won't speak much on this because you all must have gone through the details of breastfeeding, the phenomena, and the pathophysiology, and the entire detail of supporting a mother who is pregnant with breastfeeding, how to support. Then continuing breastfeeding up to 6 months of life, that's very important. Then along with breastfeeding after 6 months, it is important to introduce complementary food and age appropriate food for children up to 6 months to 2 years, from 6 months to 2 years, which does include quantity, quality, frequency, consistency, and hygiene. Then there are few indicators or few services which are not direct nutrition interventions, but they are linked to nutrition. That's why they need to be clubbed together. So that is also part of essential nutrition interventions, and those includes immunization, vitamin A supplementation, deworming, feeding children who are ill or feeding during and after illness, then management of those who fall from the safety net or who become undernourished, so therapeutic feeding for children who are severely acute malnourished, and treating them in facility or community based on the program and the type of or the levels of their undernutrition. And finally, improved access to safe drinking water and sanitation facilities. So these are the interventions, if we keep in mind and support the government and the mother or the family or community to act on, we can definitely address undernutrition and malnutrition, especially, I would say, and we can improve on the type of children we are like bringing in as um, future population. There are few things which I would like to bring to your attention with regards to breastfeeding. Here is one of them. You all know that early initiation is important. Up to 6 months, it is important to give only mother's milk, that is exclusive breastfeeding. Here you can see what is the time period when mother's milk can be given through different means. So up to 32 weeks, normal breastfeeding as between mother and child as it happens can continue. But if a child is born before 30 weeks, he or she can be given express mother's breast milk using a NG tube. I'm talking about only mother's milk. And if the birth is between 30 to 32 weeks, then the same express breast milk which the mother has taken out can be fed to the child using a cup. So these are things which we need to remember. And also, if you look at these two pictures at the bottom of the slide, which depicts a full term and the milk of a full term mother and a preterm mother. So you can see the adjustment made by nature. The full term mother's milk does not have protein in big quantity, but a preterm mother's milk does have more protein, a little bit more fat, and less of carbohydrate, lactose. So you can clearly see the requirement. So every child born to the same mother will have a different requirement, and the mother's milk get adjusted to the need or requirement of the baby. So this is to be remembered. Second thing which we can communicate to our family members, or if you have assignments when you go to the field as a student, as part of your thesis or maybe as part of your projects, you can communicate to a mother who is lactating or who is feeding the baby who is less than 6 months that there are only two things which clearly indicates that the child is not getting enough milk, because this is the concern most of the time, that my child is not getting enough milk. This is the question which is raised by mother. So there are two indicators. One is weight and second is urine output. So these are the two things only which can clearly tell you that the child is getting enough milk or not. So educate the mother with this. Next thing, there is a lot of confusion at times, or queries within by the families, and or maybe doubt within the family, that whether if the mother is not well, whether the mother should feed the baby. The answer is yes. If the mother is not well, feed the baby. Why? Mother's breast milk will provide antibodies for that illness from which the mother is suffering and protect the child. Second, if the child is consuming anything from outside, the child will have more chances to get infected, and that will hamper or will maybe damage the growth and development, maybe slow down the pace of growth and development which the child is going through. Second, if the child is not well, say for example, the child is having diarrhea, so whether the mother should feed the baby? Yes. In that case also, mother's milk will help the baby to recover fast, will not prevent from losing weight very quickly. So these are the factors which we should be emphasizing when we are interacting with communities, and you as a student when you are going for your projects and talking to someone. Now there is one question. During COVID, there was a lot of confusion whether the mother should feed the baby or not. The answer is again, mother should and can feed the baby, and all the precautions required for COVID should be maintained, and the mother can continue breastfeeding. And if the mother is not in a condition to breastfeed herself, her milk can be taken out and fed to the baby by someone who is supporting her in the house or in the hospital. Now I'm coming to complementary feeding. As I told, I would be talking on 1000 days with focus on complementary feeding. So why complementary feeding? We have seen that only 9.5% of our children who have completed 6 months of age are getting adequate diet or adequate food. So that's the problem. So that's why I'm focusing more on complementary feeding. So we all know that up to 6 months, the baby's requirement are met by mother's breast milk. But while after 6 months, the growth and looking at the growth and development, the requirement cannot be met by mother's milk. In the next slide, we will see how much gap is seen between the requirement and the supply. So it is important that the child is provided with optimal and adequate diet. Inadequate diet leads to malnutrition and will hamper the growth and development, including brain growth and development. And what do you know about foods and feeding in our state? So initiation of complementary feeding is delayed for over half the infants. मतलब देर से ही शुरू किया जाता है. Minimum dietary diversity is not met. Cereals and tubers are the primary foods for most of the children. Consumption of growth foods and micronutrient rich foods is limited, especially green leafy vegetables, vitamin A rich foods and vegetables. Then there are misconceptions around the feedings, especially with regards to animal foods, and minimum food frequency is not met. Also, no time to cook or feed, for especially in the cases where the women are working mothers, or maybe in the villages with the joint families, at times there also this problem happens. Then poor social expectation on appropriate feeding. The primary driver for feeding is appeasement of hunger. Children can't eat anything. Start complementary feeding without knowing when, what, how much, how many times, how many types of food. Then poor growth in child can be seen but is not seen. But it can be seen, but no, most of the time it is neglected or it is not understood. Hand washing at all critical times is not practiced. Families spend more money on convenience food. That's a problem, and diets do not meet the recommended nutrition intakes. So this is the scenario in our state, and this has come up from NFHS data. We have analyzed the data, and these are the findings from the data. And also at times we do have some small quick tip surveys that also gives us the same scenario in the state of MP. When I was talking about the gaps in energy, here I can show one of the slide where you can clearly see that after 6 months, mother's milk is only breast milk is not enough to meet the energy requirement of a baby. The upper part here you can see is the energy gap. As the age increases, the gap increases, and it happens for other areas as well. I've just shown one slide with energy gap. You can have the same for vitamin A, for vitamin C, for other nutrients. So what should be done? How should we ensure the quality of complementary feeding? Few things to remember. Once you start complementary feeding after 6 months, use family food which is available in the family. Use modified family foods. That is, whatever you are eating, just ensure that it is less spicy and less fried, and then give it to the child mashed, properly mashed. The first food which can be given to a child can be khichdi, milk and banana, then kheer can be given, boiled potatoes can be mashed and given, chapatis soaked in whole dal, that is whole pulses, cooked pulse. Normally what happens is people do prefer to give rice water or dal ka pani. That's not the food for the child. It should be the whole dal which is mashed, and chapati can be soaked in that and mashed and then provided to the child. Iron rich food items should be included. And many a times what you can see, if animal food is consumed in the family, the gravy is given to the child, thinking that the child cannot chew, or he or she does not have teeth to chew the food. But the same food, the meat piece which is eaten by the family, can be mashed properly and given to the child. So that these are the things which we need to keep on reminding the family or the community. Then protective foods, you all know, should be included in child's diet. Then also the variety or the diversity in the diet should be kept in mind. Out of the 7 food groups, at least 4 should be used in daily diets. And many things which can be added to increase the diversity of the food should be considered and practiced, like adding vegetables or peanut powder or sesame seeds to the porridge or the khichdi or the dal or whatever is prepared, or sabji what is prepared in the house. And also promoting use of non-veg food for the younger children, if they do not consume non-veg as such but do eat eggs. So boiled egg can be given to the children daily, and if not daily, at least 3 times a week. Then how to increase energy dense, how to make the food energy dense. So you all know the ways, so I should not be repeating this, that adding oil or ghee or butter or jaggery, and making the food, the consistency should be kept in mind, that it should not be flowy. It should be thick. Thick consistency food should be given to the children. Normally people feed the children with a little flowing consistent food, thinking that it will be easy for the children to digest, but it should be thick consistency food which should be given to the children. And food products which are not good for children, like tea, coffee, or aerated drinks, or drinks with a lot of sugar to that, should not be given to children. This is the way we can show that just right consistency, which does not flow very quickly from the spoon, while the thin one will quickly flow down from the spoon. So that should be the consistency of food should be just right, not the thin one. Active and responsive feeding should be practiced. So the family or the parents can be made aware of the signs of hunger and the signs of that the child is now full and do not require more food. The patience required and the motivation required should also be kept in mind. And I do remember our childhood, when our grandparents and my parents our parents used to use active and responsive feeding, talking to us, showing us चिड़िया आएगी वो खा जाएगी चिड़िया, या these type of things. But now the parents do use force feeding instead of active and responsive feeding. So that's also a thing. I normally tell a story to my students when I take a session. I don't know whether you know or not. I will be using Hindi for this story. अकबर बीरबल की स्टोरी आपने शायद सुनी होगी, जहां पर अकबर ने बीरबल को एक बकरी दी और कहा कि इसे खूब खिलाना है लेकिन इसका वजन नहीं बढ़ना चाहिए। तो बीरबल ने एक तरकीब निकाली कि उन्होंने बकरी को खिलाते थे वो, और खूब अच्छे से खिलाते थे, और उसको एनवायरमेंट अच्छा नहीं दिया उन्होंने। जब उसको वो जो पीरियड खत्म हुआ, 1 महीने 2 महीने का जो पीरियड उनको दिया था, वो वापस लेके गए बकरी को वहां पर अकबर के पास। तो अकबर ने जब उसका वजन किया तो उतना ही वजन था जितना था। जब उन्होंने पूछा कि आपने इसके लिए क्या किया, तो उन्होंने कहा था कि मैंने खिलाने में कभी कमी नहीं की, लेकिन मैंने उसको बांध के रखा था शेर के सामने। तो जब वो शेर को देखती थी तो वो जो कितना भी खाती थी उसकी बॉडी को नहीं, ग्रोथ एंड डेवलपमेंट के लिए यूज नहीं होता। तो दिस इज द वे हम लोग लोगों को बता सकते हैं कि good environment and active and responsive feeding is equally important to ensure that a child grows and develops properly. Here you can see the signs when a child is eager to eat and not eager to eat, and how the parents can get involved in responsive and active feeding. Hygiene and cleanliness is equally important when we talk about good growth and development. So that should also be kept in mind while feeding the child, while using the washrooms, or handling food items. When the child is ill and while recovery, the food of children should not be compromised. Many a times you can see, or I should say most of the time it happens that the children do not want to eat when they are not well or when they are recovering. So, and when they are recovering, at times they do feel hungry, but the family thinks that the child is eating too much and that it will have a negative impact, and they restrict the diet. So when the child is not well, feed the child with patience, more time, number of times, with less quantity of food, good quality of food, diversified food, and breastfeeding should be continued. And when the child is recovering, extra food should be given with extra quantity, extra rich, extra patience, and extra breastfeeding whenever the child is demanding. So that should be kept in mind. This is one of the slides which I like the most. Every dollar invested in nutrition does have an impact of $16 in return. So you can gain 16 times. So this is the report which you can go through and find this very interesting comparison and the fact actually. So this is a summary of what I have spoken right up to now, but I'm skipping this. I don't think we need this. So what we normally talk about is making nutrition aspirational. Nutrition is not an option, it's a priority. So this we need to understand, and we should work on this line. And I think we, the students of nutrition, should be the student of nutrition should be the ones who should lead this subject from the core of our heart, and then spread it as much as possible. Thank you so much, and if there be any questions, I would be happy to answer.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your knowledge and deep insights on first 1,000 days with focus on compulsory feeding, as it's very important time period for baby's growth and future health. It's the foundation on which the future of a person stands. Thank you, ma'am, once again. Now questions. Ma'am, as questions coming in the chat box. Shweta ma'am, can you take the questions?
Yes, ma'am.
To you, ma'am.
Ma'am, there is a one question. How many calories are required for a breastfeeding mother? Can you just, not exactly get the calories, but the requirement we can talk about, ma'am?
Actually, additional 300 calories for the pregnant mother and 500 calories for the lactating mother are. This is as per the NIN recommendations. You can Google through, or maybe you can use the NIN recommendation for your reference whenever you are planning a diet for a pregnant mother or a lactating mother. But there are additional calories which are required because the mother is feeding, and for every feed the mother needs extra 500 to 700 calories to produce to produce milk for one time. So that extra should come from the stores which she produced during her pregnancy, and some from the diet which she's consuming on the day-to-day basis. So that's very important. And I tell you, people restrict pregnant and lactating mothers and from eating many food items, and especially during lactation period also, eat this, do not eat that, eat liquid food, do not eat solid food. So those are the types of limitations which are posed on our lactating mothers, which we should be like, these myths should be broken by us, those who know the facts. Because very recently, 3 days back, I went to one of my consultants' family where the mother was the mother of the lady who delivered the child was insisting on giving ghutti to the child and not giving food to the lactating mother, saying that she requires more of liquid diet to produce breast milk. So these are the type of things which you need to address in your day-to-day life, also with your colleagues, with your friends, with your neighbors, or maybe the community you are working with.
And there is a question which is very generalized, and this is raised by the K. Nagaranjanji. What went wrong between the yesterday generation food culture and habits and present generation food culture and habits with regards to nutritional aspect? I guess you have answered this question during the session about the triple burden of the nutrition which we are facing off.
Yes.
Ma'am, over to you now.
Yeah, actually, you're right that this triple burden of malnutrition, I should say, has come up because of our food change in our food habits, and also the type of food which we are getting in the market. Like, we are not getting the pure form of food which we should be getting. I give an example. Vegetables and fruits are given oxytocin injection to get them grow very fast. That's a slow poison we are consuming. Or the adulteration in the food, which is not allowing it to get good food. And also, if we are getting those good food, we are not like ready to use it in our day-to-day lives. For example, the convenience food has taken up the place of that food which we used to prepare with lot of efforts. Convenience, that is easy to I would say that junk food. And junk, you can say junk means atala na, कबाड़. तो आप कबाड़ फूड खा रहे हैं बेसिकली, अपने फूड अपनी बॉडी को उससे उससे आप भर रहे हैं. सो हाउ वुड यू बी हेल्दी? एंड नॉट इवन दिस इज नॉट इवन ट्रू फॉर अस. लाइक, बड़ा जो हम हैं, बड़े लोग हैं, हमारे तो ठीक है, लेकिन जो बच्चा जो ग्रो कर रहा है, हु नीड्स मोर quality nutrients, and you are not giving that the right nutrients at the right time, then how would you think? आप अमेरिका जाइए, you have to talk like this, क्योंकि उनका हाइट इतना हाइट अच्छा होता है. हमारे कंट्री में, हमारे देश में भी ये पॉसिबल है. दिस इज पॉसिबल ओनली बाय टेकिंग केयर ऑफ द adolescent, pregnant mother, and the children up to 2 years. If you do this much, you will have long, tall, heighted children with good brain capacity, good health, and less susceptible to NCDs, जो non communicable diseases जो अभी हमको इतनी देखने को मिल रही, ये सब नहीं होगा. Very recently I lost one of my friend. We are just 50 years and this is not the age to go, but she went with a heart attack because of our lifestyle. We are so much into our, like, I should say, we have become materialistic, more of materialistic, less of that original we. Especially India is a country known for our tradition and culture, and we are losing on that. So that's the reason why the earlier times you used to cook food slowly. Now on high flame, on with use of soda or those things which can quickly cook the food, because we want to save on time. Even when feeding the child, we are forcing the child, जल्दी खाओ, मुझे ऑफिस जाना है, उसको जबरदस्ती खिला रहे हैं. एंड इफ यू रिमेम्बर आर टाइम्स, हमारा दादी या हमारी मम्मी हमें टाइम लेके खिलाते थे. उनको खाना हमें खिलाने में 1 घंटा लगता था, बट दैट यूज्ड टू गो इनटू आवर बॉडीज. आज हमारी जो mental या physical strength है, that's because of the food which we have got from our early childhood, I should say, up to 2 years जो हमारा था. I hope I have answered your question.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Very nicely, ma'am. And you have covered numbers. There is a one question coming up, ma'am. Mansi CT have asked this question. What are the possible problems for the possible problem of complementary feeding a baby?
Of?
Having complementary feeding, what are the possible problems related to complementary feeding if it is not fed, I think, adequately or at right time?
As I told, not adequate food, care, and protection from illness, the child will not grow mentally and physically. to the optimum capacity. Every child has the same capacity. If you look at the WHO growth standards, India was also one of the country to be part of that, and up to 5 years, all children grow at par. But it is you who is stopping them not to grow optimally because of the type of food you are giving. So if you're not starting the food, there will be many problems. So growth and development will be hampered. The child will not be able to eat all the food items, will not be ready to eat food actually. So there will be many problems which will start coming up, and this will be coupled with other things which are, when the child is not having all those things which is required to grow healthy, he will fall sick, and then the cycle will begin. And especially anemia, the child will be caught up by anemia because iron rich food is normally not part of children who are very young, especially the part of complementary feeding. That's a challenge. And also we know that parents do lack time nowadays because of nuclear families. So that is also adding to the problem of not eating what is provided to them. When the parents give them something to eat and leave them on their own, then the child consumes what he or she finds interesting or tasty to eat. And you know that all those junk foods, they are really palatable, and they are like I should say covered with so many things which attracts your tongue to have them more, or your body to have them more, as compared to a normal food which requires a lot of exercise by the teeth to chew them, to like time, energy, what everything is required at the part of family as well as part of the child. So there will be many complications, including you are putting up the child on a path where he will be a patient in the later age of life,
True, ma'am.
especially like diabetes, hypertension, heart disease. These type of things are definitely going to come if you are not going to take care of your children now at the very young age.
Ma'am, there's a one question on twins nutrition requirement. Basically, is the requirement is double or triple should be taken by the mother? In the case of twins, when there are twin child, yeah, twins in two in numbers, what would be the nutrition? Like, how does it affect the maternal health?
Look, a mother can feed twins or triplet. There is no problem. The only thing is you have to feed the mother properly so that she is healthy to feed the babies. The mother's body is going to produce milk for all the number of children she has. जितने भी उसके बच्चे उसने जन्म दिए हैं, उन सबके लिए नेचर ने मदर के बॉडी में मिल्क दिया है, उसमें कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. इफ यू आर नॉट प्रोवाइडिंग प्रॉपर न्यूट्रिशन टू अ मदर, टू अ वुमन, nutrients from her body will be taken up by the nature. So milk में तो चीज आएंगी जब तक उसकी बॉडी में अगर कैल्शियम नहीं आप बराबर दे रहे हैं, उसकी बोन से कैल्शियम ड्रैग होके मदर के मिल्क में आ जाएगा, लेकिन बच्चे को मिलेगा till the time mother is. आपने वो आपको भुज का याद होगा, you must be remembering the Bhuj incident when the mother was not alive. The child was surviving on mother's milk for 2 days inside that वो जो जहां पर वो गिर गया था बिल्डिंग. So नेचर ने ऐसा बनाया है कि द मदर का बॉडी विल प्रोड्यूस मिल्क विथ वॉट एवर अवेलेबल न्यूट्रिएंट्स मदर के बॉडी में. लेकिन अगर आपने नहीं दिया मदर को, तो मदर विल बी malnourished. Then she will not be in a condition to take care of the babies herself, and she need good nutrition because she is going to kill a lot of energy while producing milk. And अगर वो triplets हैं या twins हैं, तो उनको उसको एक बार में पिलाना होगा 2 बच्चों को, मतलब डबल कंजम्पशन हो रहा है उसके बॉडी से.
Ma'am, there are a whole lot of questions our participants have asked. I think we have to organize one more session to answer all these questions. Ma'am, I would like to, ma'am, I apologize for stopping all the attendees for asking questions, but I would like to request to all the panelists which are there from the SBBB respected panelists, if they have any question to ask from the Pushpa ma'am, so they can ask the question.
I can also do one thing, maybe Shweta, if we can send me the questions, I can send you the answers by through mail, and you can circulate it among your students so that they know what exactly is their query and the answers are there with her.
Yeah, ma'am, please share
Yes.
madam's mail ID so that
Yes,
the
ma'am.
student can send directly to her.
Sir,
Yeah,
I
sure,
would
sure.
request instead of students, all the students sending it to me, I might not read all the emails thinking it's a spam. It will be good if Shweta madam can take up all the questions and type it and give it to me. I will
Yeah,
write all the answers and give it to her and she can circulate among the students.
yeah, that
Sure,
can be
ma'am.
another way.
Yes,
That
sir.
is
Thank
good.
you so much. I hope I have met the requirement of your session which you were thinking to have with your students. I don't know. Actually, we haven't had much of discussion because of my illness. I was down with COVID, so I couldn't speak much with Shweta and the team to get more clarity on exact expectations. But this was a basic I thought of.
Yes,
Thank you,
ma'am,
ma'am.
it is, ma'am. It is, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
We assure all the participants that we'll definitely take your questions and send it to ma'am. And with the respective answer from her side, we'll send it back to you.
Thank you
Because
so
of
much.
this, yeah. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
So can I
Now,
take your leave to attend another meeting?
yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
And all
Thank
the
you so
very
much,
best.
ma'am. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Now, we start our second lecture of National Nutrition Week Celebration 2022. We are honored to have with us today the eminent speaker of the lecture series, Dr. Sonu Jacob, sir. Dr. Sonu Jacob, sir, is Director of Food and Standards Authority of India, Southern Region, India from last 3 years. In past, Jacob sir also worked with Export Inspection Council of India, which is under the Ministry of Commerce Industry Government of India. Sir is also in charge of Export Inspection Agency, Mumbai. Jacob sir worked as Associate Professor in Food Science and Technology in School of Biosciences, Smart Ventures College for Advanced Studies, Tiruvalla. Sir is a postdoctoral fellow on Substance Department from Dalhousie University. Sir also worked on various projects with different University of India as well as abroad. Sir was alumnus from University of London and completed his PhD in plant biology and crop production, physiology of fruit maturation, ripening and storage. I would like to invite Dr. Sonu Jacob sir, vitamin C personality. C stands for cheerful, confident, courageous, current, creative, cultural, connector, and many more. Over to you, Jacob sir.
Thank you, Deepali ji, and the Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya. It's indeed a pleasure to be here, though I'm a bit busy. I'm having back-to-back lectures, but definitely it's a good start to encourage the students to know them, to tell them something about the food, about the nutrition. And in fact, I could hear in the inaugural session when Professor Upendra ji, the Honorable Vice Chancellor, mentioned the importance of nutrition and how it can be linked to the Sustainable Development Goals, which the world is looking for. Food is part and parcel of our day-to-day life. Without food, we cannot live. That is the mantra which everyone has to believe and agree upon. It's a fuel. We all believe, just like fuel is required for a car to run, some fuel is required to cook your food. So likewise, the food is a fuel that is required to run our body in terms of life, in terms of its maintenance, and in terms of growth. So this is very important. And from the FSSAI perspective, we always encourage not only on nutrition, that is a prime, we always encourage, but also on safe food. So today in my lecture, I'll just, start something on the food. What are the avenues in food? And then slowly touch upon the regulatory mechanism, what is happening in India. A bit of insight, what is the working of FSSAI. Before I touch the topic that is on nutrition, how FSSA and nutrition, how we are encouraging and promoting through various campaigns, especially the Eat Right India movement that is happening all across the country. So I'll share my screen here. Once again, I have to rejoin because my system has asked me to give access for the screen since it is a Mac computer. So I'm just leaving and I will join back.
Okay, sir. Sir, now it's fine? Yes. Sir, it's visible.
If anyone can confirm me, if you're able to see my screen.
Yes, sir. Sir, it's visible.
So, well, we'll go with the touch upon the topic. Many times we speak about food. I thought I'll come with the genesis of food. What exactly is the word food means? As I said, it comes from an old English word or an old German word, Fodia. You might have heard the word fodder, which means to feed or the fuel. And in a layman term, food is a material that may be nutritive and non-nutritive. When it is ingested, assimilated by an organism, it produces energy, stimulate growth, and maintain life. So then the question comes, can the pictures that are shown below, can I treat that as food? Well, they are also getting assimilated, say, for instance, the drugs, your oil. Of course, oil is not using the alimentary canal, or your cigarette, chewing gum, water. Well, when we see these pictures, only two categories. What if you are able to see my cursor here? The water can be treated as food, and the chewing gum can also be treated as food. But other categories like the drugs, the body oil, hair oil, your nail polish, cigarette cannot be treated as food legally, because the legal definition of food is any substance, whether processed, partially processed, or unprocessed, which is intended for human consumption and includes primary food to the extent defined in the clause genetically modified or engineered food, of food containing such ingredients, infant food, packaged drinking water, alcoholic drink, chewing gum, or any substance including water. Now, you can see it's a pretty long definition. Don't get worried. Just focus on the blue fonts and the red font. So the blue font are falling under the purview of food, while the red font say it is not a food. So genetically modified, engineered food, infant food, packaged drinking water, alcoholic drink, chewing gum. So, I always tell the students, be a good observer. Whenever you buy a packet of chewing gum or, your packaged drinking water, your mineral water, try to see the label. So if you find a FSSAI tag or a logo, then definitely it falls under the purview of food. Water, although it is non-nutritive, water does not provide any calorie, but definitely it is part and parcel of food. You make your dal, you make your khichdi, some amount of water is going, you're adding your sambar, so definitely water is also falling under the purview of food. But it does not include any animal feed, live feed, unless they are prepared or processed for placing on the market for human consumptions, plant prior to harvesting, drugs or medicinal products, cosmetics, narcotic or psychotropic substances. So you can understand here, even a fruit which is yet to be harvested, say for instance, a mango, it is still there on the tree, you cannot call it as a food. But once it is harvested, yes, it falls under the category of food. So likewise, the drugs, the cosmetics, live animals, they are not treated as food, provided that the central government may declare by the notification in the official gazette. So this is a dynamic definition. It keeps changing as and when the committee or the authority feels that the particular material should fall under the purview of food. And, it is a highly interdisciplinary subject. You can connect food with agriculture, with biology, biochemistry. So, it is crisscross. I, did my BSc agriculture, MSc agriculture, PhD, postdoc, everything in agriculture sciences. But, I work in FSSAI. So I can say that the major food, what we get, whether it is plant-based or animal-based, is coming from the agriculture sector. You can link it with the biology, particularly the botany part, when you see the photons being captured, the photosynthesis process happening, and there is, going to the cycles, various cycles to develop the carbohydrate or simple sugars. So likewise, biochemistry, physics, medicine, history, you can link to all such sciences. Say, for instance, you might ask how we can link history. History, again, the origin of food. The origin of food, say, for instance, idli or sambar. Like, for instance, sambar, it originates from Sambhaji Rao Maharaj, when he was on a tour and accidentally there was a hing and tamarind that was put on the oil, on the dal, his regular meal, and he really liked it, and it became food. So there are different ways the food can be connected also to the history, sociology. Every region of India is having different food. If you go towards the south, you will find more steamed food, more rice-based food, while in the north it is wheat-based food, fried food. So, based on the geography, you have the food on GI tag. You have certain food which is linked to a particular place, like your Hyderabad biryani. You have your poha. In fact, in Madhya Pradesh, when I was traveling to Ujjain, there was a certain station there it is famous for poha. Likewise, you have your Ratnagiri mango, your Mysore pak, your Lucknow kebabs. So you can see there is a link of geography to the place where the food can be tagged. Mathematics, again, there are a lot of modelings when you see the papers, the degradation. Commerce, economics, food is a trade. You have, in the commerce ministry itself, there are various boards like spices board, coffee board, tea board. So more linked to the trade and linked to the food. Engineering are the high-end equipments for manufacturing, for food testing, for law. The FSSA, the Food Safety and Standard Regulation, is kind of a law which deals with what regulations a food business manufacturer or operator has to follow. Forensic, again, this is a new field emerging just to prevent the food fraud or trying to do a trace back, just like how you do the account or financial forensic. So or a criminal investigation. So sometimes food forensic. In fact, there is a National Forensic University in Gujarat, which exclusively deals with the food forensic sciences. So what I wanted to emphasize here is that it is highly interdisciplinary. You can connect the food with all these sciences. And two terms often come, food security and food safety. Many people ask, what is the difference? How we can, how it is linked? Well, both are, part and parcel. Without food security, there is no food safety. Without food safety, there is no food security. So both are two sides of the same coin. So food security depends on 4 pillars. One is food availability. That means the Honorable Vice Chancellor was saying there is SDG goal number 1 is no poverty. SDG 2 is relating to zero hunger. So zero hunger, I would say, is more linked to the food security, where the food availability has to be there. The stability of the food has to be there. The people should have the income and the access to buy the food, and also the people should utilize the food properly by good storage practices. So you can link, SDG 1, SDG 2, then there is a SDG 12, which relates to responsible consumption. So availability, stability, utilization, access. These are the 4 pillars of a food security program, where the emphasis is that every person in the world should have sufficient, safe, and nutritious food to meet their day-to-day dietary needs and requirement. And as I said, being both are coming from the two sides of the same coin, so no one is winner here. No, neither head nor tails. So you can see we discussed the 4 pillars: the food availability, food access, and stability, while the food safety starts from the production and it goes till the consumption. So there are different stakeholders, various actors are involved in the supply chain, right from the production, it goes to the process, distribution, retail, and finally to the consumer. And in that, the food safety focus on 3 elements, the hazards, what we call as, biological, chemical, and physical hazards. So, when they go hand in hand, you can see a good, healthy life, provided if there is a good development policy, good, climate also encouraging. So in that way, we can, to a very good way, we can have a healthy human life. So from the food safety perspective, look at this picture. The hazard, what I had mentioned earlier, the biological or the chemical or the physical, sometimes, it comes accidentally. It is not intentional. Intentional is adulteration, but what we call is that contamination or contaminants. So it happens, it is there in the nature. Even if you just take your surrounding air and subject it to a aerobic plate count, a microbiological examination, you will find a lot of bacteria and fungus, molds, yeast in the air itself, which are invisible. So there is always a threat, there is always a hazard surrounding the food, and how we can minimize or prevent, it's all just, using a right approach. And those right approach can lead to a safe food. So something like you have the GAP, which is the good agriculture practice, the good manufacturing practice, the good hygiene practice, proper hazard analysis, critical control point, threat analysis, critical control point, vulnerable analysis, critical control point, preventive controls, Food Safety and Standard Act and regulations, your Codex Alimentarius guidelines. So when you fulfill, when you follow all those things to a greater extent, you can minimize or reduce this risk and make your food safe. While the food security, it is again planet to plate perspective, where if the 4 pillars, the accessibility, availability, utilization, and access. So all those things can be done if we keep our environment in good condition. So if we, are doing deforestation, bad agriculture practice, or misutilization of natural resources, then naturally it is going to have an effect on the climate in form of flood, drought, pest, pollutions, global warming. So first, best way is to respect the planet. Where we are living, we should always respect the planet, see that greenery is maintained, a good ecological balance is maintained, no over exploitation of resources are done. Then to a greater extent, we can minimize also the food shortage. The population is growing. We cannot deny that what was there 5 years back or 10 years back, the population is increasing exponentially. But the unfortunate part is that we have a limited land area. We cannot, expand our land area. So in that limited land area, to feed the overgrowing population, we should have some good, ways. I mean, respecting the planet is one, then good agriculture practices, then use some improved production technology, maybe in terms of breeding, develop some new crops which can give more production output, and then less and no food wastage, sustainable consumption. So these are some ways through which we can address the food security issues. Well, again, since FSSAI largely deals on food safety, I'll come back to food safety, and these are the challenges what we come across. The foodborne microorganism, the invisible enemy, and this enemies, some of the pathogens are so dangerous. They lead some toxins behind, and those toxins, like in fungus, we have the mycotoxin coming from Aspergillus. It is commonly seen in groundnut. Perhaps whenever you have taken a groundnut, peanut, जब कभी मूंगफली खाते हो तो कभी कड़वा आता है. So that kadwapan is the mycotoxin. So this, if it keeps accumulating, then it becomes dangerous for our body. Likewise, we also, encounter in milk also, this mycotoxin problem is coming. So a good management practice, has to be adopted by the farmer to prevent such growth, because the fungus, it leaves a trail behind, and that is the mycotoxin. And this mycotoxin is a chemical compound which over the years, when it keeps accumulating in the body, then it can result into cancer or any other problems for human. Plant disease, again, sometimes it happens come through the food. So some of the food coming from abroad has to go through strict plant quarantine or animal quarantine measures, so that we can prevent such kind of incidents. Then sanitation quality, especially in the manufacturing plant, if the workers are not, doing a good follow-up or good practices, like headgear or mask or gloves, or they are unhealthy, they are having some disease. So the food outbreak, foodborne pathogens can easily transmitted get into the food, and a normal person can get affected. So sanitation is very important. That's the reason we always say GMP, good manufacturing practices. Allergens, these are intrinsic to certain food. So as of now, we have close to 7 or 8, I'm not sure, 7 groups are there, like soya bean, peanut, gluten, wheat. So they, certain chemical that is intrinsic or inherent to that particular food cause allergy to certain segment of people. Not all people get allergic reaction, but some people like eating shrimp, they get the itching sensation or reddish mark. The people who have gluten, they again have some kind of a suffocation kind of a feeling. So that is the reason in labeling, we always mention that such kind of food, whether it is soya bean or milk traces or your shrimps, all such the proper declaration has to be given. You might have seen in the labels, they also mention traces of peanuts. Although peanut won't be there, but traces of peanut, just to make the consumer aware that the food where they had manufactured a chocolate, say for instance, the chocolate was manufactured, and prior to that, there might be a peanut production also happened in that same plant. So they just, as a precaution, they mention traces of peanut. So allergen is again a food safety concern. You have the GMO, the genetically modified food. Though it is falling under the food purview, but India has not yet accepted. There is, a lot of debate and proceedings going on, and the government has to give a decision on this. Then residues and adulteration coming from the farm in form of pesticide, in form of herbicide, in form of antibiotics, in form of heavy metals like arsenic or cadmium, mercury. So such kind of residues also accidentally come into the food system, and this also becomes a very big safety concern. So this kind of news, what you are seeing here, are pretty common. At least once in a week, you may be seeing in one of the newspaper, at least in some part of the country. So our responsibility is that we should be aware that we should eat safe and nutritious food. Another challenge, this is more economic related, more bioterrorism related, where food fraud happens, mainly because to gain more money, or some intentional, you want to cause some damage. So you have the dilution, counterfeiting, unapproved enhancement, mislabeling, concealing, or substitution. So like say for instance, adding water into milk. So it's a dilution. It's not the pure, because you are paying for the pure milk and water is added. Now water is not going to cause any harm. It is safe. But again, it's a breach. What you were supposed to pay for the milk has been diluted, or else it has to be declared. So such kind of food fraud can also happen, and one has to be very careful. In FSSAI, we have listed certain contaminants like, in our food safety and standard regulations, we have listed 11 heavy metals, 6 crop contaminants like the aflatoxin, which I was talking about, the B1, M1, patulin in fruits. Likewise, naturally occurring toxic substances, pesticide residues, close to the MRL, the limit, the maximum residual limit for 213 pesticides has been set. It should not go beyond that particular limit, while 20 pesticides as of now has been banned. Likewise, the tolerance limit for 103 antibiotic and veterinary drugs has been set, while 20 antibiotics or the veterinary drugs have been banned. We have the PCBs, the PAH, again, you have the polychlorinated biphenyls or the benzopyrenes. Even the limits for biotoxins, which are intrinsic, certain fish, particularly in fish, you have this shellfish poisoning that happens. So those things have been identified and have been set. Other contaminants like melamine, in fact, in 2008, there was a crisis in China where certain infants, died due to this adulteration of melamine, which was more of an economic fraud just to increase the level of nitrogen or protein in the milk. So limits have also been set. The histamine in fish and fishery product, again, there is a list. I just, gave a glimpse of all the contaminants in a broad way. The details you can see when you refer our standard regulations. So coming to the safety, one of the major challenge is physical hazards, which can come into the food in form of hair, stones, stems, jewelry, nails, and so if it goes, accidentally, and some baby or some child is accidentally taking, it can choke and it can lead to death. So physical hazard should not be ignored. They are very important. That's the reason, as a good manufacturing practices, we advocate in many of the factories to have a strict, stringent measures, especially the workers who are manufacturing food. They should not wear jewelry items or keep their hair loose. And all such things can be prevented. Chemical hazard, it can come through the pesticide residue, it can come through the cleaning chemicals. Again, it is unintentional, not intentionally done. Say, for instance, the cleaning chemical, you prepared a food in the factory. Now, after one batch of food is manufactured, you start using the cleaning and you used a certain detergent and you fail to, do a thorough rinsing. You might have done one single rinsing and then that's it. But that residue of that detergent can carry over to the next food. So this is again a big challenge. So, we have certain SOPs. What you have to do, you have the CIP, the clean in place process, which one has to employ. Pesticide residue, farmers accidentally, or I would say just to protect the crops, they indiscriminately apply just to save the crop. But the fact is that this residues, they go into the food system and eventually it is well, and this can again become a threat to the human health. Invisible, these are the very dangerous form of hazard. I already mentioned they leave the toxin behind, but certain microorganisms like salmonella, which cause typhoid or bacteria. You have the E. coli, one particular strain is there, OS157. Vibrio. There are many bacteria which can cause, even death. There was a case in Kerala where a lady in the recent month, she took shawarma, a food very popular in the place, and unfortunately she died after the consumption of that particular food. Now that was due to the Shigella, which was a toxin, which is a bacteria and which leads going to create a toxin, and that her body could not, sustain, and she had an unfortunate death. While others also ate and they had, commotions or they had problems and they had to be hospitalized. Likewise, you have the yeast, the protozoas, the molds, the virus. They are all there in the environment, and any unhygienic condition, especially unhygienic conditions, cross contaminations, are very simple means for these microorganisms to get into the food system. So we always say, when food contamination, if you're having the raw materials, if it is uncleaned and you're manufacturing it nearby, or if your lavatory or your bathroom or toilets are near to the food manufacturing plant, it should be kept at a very far off place, should not be near to the site of food, or the drainage, or the seepage. Sometimes people just dump the food, there is a drainage happening, house flies are flying, they can be a carrier. So there is no proper netting. So then all this pathogens, insects, cross contamination, we are giving scope for such kind of cross contamination, and this is again a risk to the food system. So how we can prevent such things? Why there is a need for food safety? Because of our changing food habits, because of increased processing and handling, because of the changing processes, products, globalization. So all such things are happening. We cannot change. So we have to ensure food safety, and that happens through a shared responsibility. I always say shared responsibility. It is not FSSAI alone, but it's a community whole, and that has to happen. We also encourage the FBOs, the food business manufacturers or operators, to go with the self-compliance. We cannot pull each and every FBOs, but definitely you need to adhere and follow good practices, and following proper food regulations and its standards, you can, to a greater amount, you can prevent food safety. So now, coming to the food regulations in India, we have two regulatory body. One looks after the domestic and imported food, that is the purview of FSSAI. While for the exported food, it is the EIC. In fact, I'm fortunate to work in both this organization. My current organization is FSSAI, but my past organization was EIC. So EIC looks after the food quality system that is exported out of India. It sees whether it is meeting the importing countries' standards as per their importing countries' regulations. So just a glimpse of EIC. It is again an autonomous body coming under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, set up in 1964. So almost we are touching 60 years in next 2 years. And then the main purpose when the EIC was formed was to do the inspection and certification of exported goods. That time, all goods, including food and non-food. But then in the late 90s, it was only meant to food. And because of the liberalization policy that came from the then government. So now only notified food commodities are being looked upon by the EIC. And the objective is to ensure sound development of Indian export trade through quality control and pre-shipment inspection. So as on today, these are the notified food commodities. So any food business manufacturer who are dealing with all such food like marine, egg, poultry, meat, they have to get the approval of EIC before sending it outside India, based on the importing countries' norms. Now, touching upon FSSAI, it comes under Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Students do ask why it is not coming under Ministry of Agriculture or Ministry of Food Processing. Well, food safety is a health issue, and it pertains to human life. So that's the reason the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare is the nodal ministry, and for that reason the FSSAI is under this ministry. And in this, every food business operator we call it as FBOs, they are supposed or to have a license or a registration based on their income, based on their area of operation. There are many norms, and if anything where the FBO is falling, it is mandatory that they should at least have a registration or a license. That is very, very important. It's just like you want to drive on the road, आपको गाड़ी चलाना है और गाड़ी चलाने के लिए लाइसेंस तो चाहिए, क्योंकि अगर आप लाइसेंस के बिना गाड़ी चलाओगे तो पुलिस अगर आपको पकड़ता है, then there will be a hefty penalty and also jail. So that is the reason we also want to bring such kind of norms where the food business operators, so whenever you next time the students you see that the license or the registration is not done, then kindly inform that if they may not be aware of that, inform that that it is important that they take the license or the registration. In fact, most of the people have FBOs have taken the license, but still many are unaware. So it is a good practice, just to inform and bring it in the umbrella of Food Safety and Standard Act regulations. So then what is the role of BIS and EGMARC? Yes, they are also, voluntary bodies, and they are specified for certain food like EGMARC for blended oil, ghee. You might have seen EGMARC mark on such food products. While the packaged drinking water, infant food, milk powder, the standards have been set by the BIS. Though it is voluntary, but it is mandatory, irrespective of BIS, EGMARC, all the food business operator, it is mandatory that they should have the FSSAI or license. So food safety is not a recent issue. It's not that the act came in 2006. Well, before 2006 also we had various act and orders. Right from our independence, you can see the vegetable oil orders, the PFA Act, the FPO. But the challenge was it was regulated by various different ministries, and it was a bit difficult. And then the government realized, why can't we unify all these things and bring into an act? And that happened in 2006. So in 2006, the act was passed by the Indian Parliament, and then in the authority was established in September 2008. So FSSAI looks after the implementation of the act, and then the regulations started coming on in August, and then the operationalization of the act also started in August, and then it is mandatory that all the food business operator in the country need to have the registration or license with the FSSAI. And FSSAI works on science-based standard. It is not on fiction, but it is purely on science. The standards are being set with the intention to regulate the manufacture, storage, distribution, sale, import of food. What kind of food? Safe and wholesome food for human consumption. And as I said, the FSSAI Act, brought all this 8 orders and various acts together and brought in one umbrella. And the main feature, or I would say the beauty of FSSAI is now it's the integrated line of command. It focuses on strategic issues, including substandard food or including adulterated food, promotion of self-compliance, licensing through a single window, entrusting the responsibility on food business operators, kind of a self-attestation. We do entrust that you are responsible, and if you are caught, then we won't spare. So that is the responsibility we are giving. Just like how you attest your mark sheet in a photocopy. Now it is all self-attestation. Previously, we used to go and do a gazetted officer has to look into our original and attest the photocopy. But now it is all self-attestation. But yes, if there is some anomaly or if there is something false declaration or anything, then you are responsible, and accordingly the penal actions will be coming. Then graded penalty and speedy disposal of cases, emphasis on consumer education through various programs like the FOSTAC. We have many programs. You see there is a separate training division in FSSAI, which emphasize on consumer education. And then consistency with the global measures like the Codex Alimentarius, where India is also one of the partner, I would say, is a member. So who are covered in this act? You know, right from the food material transporter, food processor, importer, wholesaler, retailer, restaurant, consumer, everyone, most of them are covered in the FBO, or we call them as, you know, they all fall under the purview of Food Safety and Standard Act. There is a definition, you know, food business operator, FBO. What does it mean? It is an undertaking, whether for profit or not profit, whether public or private, carrying out any activities related to any stage of manufacture, processing, packaging, storage, transportation, distribution of food, import, including food service, catering service, sale of food and food ingredient. Now, here transportation, of course, they are not doing any food manufacturing, but they are bound to have a registration or a license. This is mandatory. Anyone who is dealing with the food, that's a thumb rule. Say you might have seen Swiggy, Zomato. Try to observe today. Again, open up the app. You will find their license, FSSAI license, being mentioned somewhere. So why they are not, you know, manufacturing food? They are just doing the distribution of food. They just carry from the restaurant to the consumer. But it is mandatory that they also need to take the license or the registration. And food, you know, the regulatory framework in FSSAI, it goes with the 4 pillars. As I said, FSSAI work on science. So that's the reason we have the scientific panel. There are different panels. As of now, we have 21 panels, horizontal and vertical panels put together. I'll explain later what is a horizontal and a vertical panel. Well, their recommendation goes to the scientific committee. The scientific committee is again a group of you know, people, and the heads of the scientific panel are also part of the scientific committee, where they take a decision and it is passed on to the food authority for the approval. So food authority is the ultimate authority in the Food Safety and Standard Authority of India, which provides scientific and technical advice to the central and the state government in matters relating to policy and rules, after, you know, due deliberation that is happening from the scientific panel to the scientific committee, and then it is going to the food authority. While the Central Advisory Committee is more of a state-center relationship. So every state, they have a food safety commissioner, they have joint commissioner, deputy commissioners. At district, you have the designated officer. At the field, you have the food safety officer. So the policy that is created or made by the FSSAI, how best it is implemented, how best it is enforced, that part is dealt by the Central Advisory Committee. So as on now, we have the structure in FSSAI. The food authority is chaired by the chairperson and the CEO, who is having the executive and the administrative power. And there are 11 divisions. So science, regulation division, quality assurance, regulatory compliance, HR, GA, IT. There are different divisions in FSSAI. But generally, these are the key divisions: the regulation division, the science division, the quality assurance, the regulatory compliance division. I would say these are some of the SBCD we cannot ignore, because that is more related to nutrition, you know, bringing awareness, trade, import clearance. So this is also one of the, I would say every division here are very important, and they all, you know, looks directly or indirectly to you know, bring a good food safety ecosystem in the country. And in the regional we have the Northern Office, Eastern Office, Western Office, and Southern Office. So I represent South, being the regional director. And under me, all the states, what is being listed is there. And we have offices. Now, this is an old, slide, but we have offices, more offices, close to 7 branch offices under Chennai, at Vishakhapatnam, at Krishnapatnam, at Tuticorin, at Cochin, at Bangalore, Hyderabad. So likewise, every region, they have their own setup and means, and that is how the regulatory compliance is being done. Any regional office, they look into 3 main aspects. One is the licensing and registration, particularly the central license. Second is the import clearance, because any food that is coming into India, the purview is the FSSAI. And the third is the awareness, bringing awareness through Eat Right India movement, public awareness, just to tell the public, eat the right food and be healthy. So that message. So these are the 3 core areas any regional office does. So coming to the standards, I was explaining previously, there are vertical standards and horizontal standards. Just for the information of student, standards are specific for a particular food category. You have the sweets, milk product, fish, they are particular food category, while horizontal standards are something generic, and you can apply to all the food. Say, for instance, biological hazards or labeling. Labeling you can apply in water, you can apply in sweet, you can apply in milk, fish. So likewise, all this horizontal can be applied to the vertical standards. So that is how the grouping has been done for the standards. And you can see there are close to 21 panels as on date. And the horizontal panel I have listed here, and the vertical panels are also listed below. You can get all these details in the website. So what gives the power to FSSAI? There are sections in the FSSAI, section 92, 93, which tells to make the regulations and other procedures like the food recall, the DOs, the designated officer, the food analyst, all such things are mentioned in the act, and that gives the power. So as of now, there are different, again, technical regulations that have come right from 2011 onwards. You can see the licensing registration regulation, the packaging labeling regulations, the food product standard, food additive regulation, prohibition and restriction, contaminant toxins, laboratory and sampling analysis, health supplement, nutraceutical, food for special dietary use regulations, food recall procedure, import, approval for non-specified food. You have the organic food regulation, alcoholic beverage regulation, fortification of food. I would say this is very or more linked to the nutrition, where what standards have to be met when you are fortifying staple foods like the rice, milk, oil, with vitamin A, folic acid, with B12, with iron, zinc, etc. Then the food safety auditing, recognition and notification of labs. So there are, all this list, and just again glimpse, just to show that there are different regulation, and the last one is the labeling and display regulation. So how the standard setting is done, any new proposal comes either from the industry or to the panel secretariat from the consumer organization, and then it is put to the scientific panel. Once the deliberation is over, it goes to the scientific committee, then goes to the food authority. The food authority takes the decision. If it is agreeing with the recommendation of scientific committee, then it can it does the legal vetting, do the Hindi translation, and then put up to the WTO, because India is a signatory of World Trade Organization, WTO and SPS, sanitary and phytosanitary, and it is put in the public domain to seek for stakeholders' comment. Any comments that is received, again it again goes through this cycle, and finally those comments, after adding, it is again translated, and then finally it comes as a notification in the Gazette of India. So this is in brief, just to show how the standard settings are done in FSSAI. And as I said, the enforcement, the regulatory compliance division is very important. So we have, in the center, we have the CFSO, which is the Central Food Safety Officer, so which comes under the regulatory compliance division. And the CO is kind of a central commissioner also, food commissioner. While in state, it is the state food commissioner. In the district, it is the designated officer and the food safety officer. Parallelly, there is also a lab in every state where there is a food analyst, and that food analyst report, is very authentic and it is accepted by the court if there is any judicial, prosecution or some adjudication is happening. So this is, in the state, you have the registration authority happening at the municipal panchayat level, gram panchayat, while the licensing authority within the state FDA, the State Food and Drug Administration. Some states have only the food safety department, so where they have the designated officer and the food safety officers. Then you have the Central Food Authority, I already mentioned, and the regional directors who are involved in various inspections and monitoring. So once the sample that is picked by the food safety officer, the designated officer, it goes in the lock and key of designated officer. The designated officer, there is a procedure, how many samples have to be picked for regulation or surveillance sample. There are generally two sampling ways. One is surveillance and enforcement sample. So enforcement sample, I would say, is the legal sample. And this legal sample is, sealed and with the designated officer, and one sample is sent to the lab. The lab will, and it should be an accredited lab as per the section 43 of the Act. It says that it has to be an accredited lab, an NABL accredited lab. And once the sample pass, well and good. If it fails, then the designated officer has the right to send it to the referral lab. If the referral lab fails, then it goes to the adjudicating officer of prosecutions, etc. Then the court or the legal matters come. Now, coming to the food category, we have, defined different food category like the dairy food, fat, edible oil. Now, this is very convenient if any FBO wants to choose a license under the FOSCOS system. They can pick the category they want, and accordingly they apply for license or registration. So as on date, we have a different category. The last one which was added was category 18, Indian sweets, Indian snacks and savory products, and substances added to the food. There are food, substances like the food color, food enzymes, food preservatives. So they all fall under section or under 99, while 100 is the one which is not covered under 1 to 14. And there is another new category, hemp seeds and seed products, under 101. Now, those were the glimpses of FSSAI, the regulatory powers. I spoke something on the food, how it evolved, what are the safety concerns. Now let's see how we are involved in improving the health of India. It's a very popular saying, let food be Thai medicine, and then the medicine be Thai food. So always, eat the food as your medicine. Then you eat the medicine. Unfortunately, now we are taking our medicines. My parents, I have seen, they take 6 or 7 tablets morning, afternoon, evening. So that has become their food. So we should turn it the other way around. We take the food as our medicine. Now, how we can do that when we are taking safe and nutritious food? So this has already been, mentioned. Like we have the triple burden of malnutrition. We cannot say India is blessed. When you go to rural areas, including Madhya Pradesh and tribal belt and places, you can see undernutrition, micronutrition, malnutrition, and also the extreme overnutrition or overweight, obesity. So, and you can see the statistics, India is not that good, when we see the global hunger index or the obesity. In fact, approximately 7.87 million deaths are happening, mainly because of this non-communicable diseases like vascular diseases. It's a slow, we are seeing, but heart attack, just the previous speaker was talking about her friend who was 50 years old and she had a heart attack because of the lifestyle. So what I'm saying is, these are hidden things or invisible, but very dangerous. So 60% of these deaths in India are mainly because of this non-communicable disease, mainly because of our unhealthy lifestyle, inactivity, physical abuse, alcohol, or not physical, the alcohol abuse and the tobacco use. So that is the reason the Eat Right India has come, which gives the tagline Sahi Bhojan Behtar Jeevan. That means right food, better life. And that is the foundation of this movement. And we have aligned with all this other, programs like Ayushman Bharat, Poshan Abhiyan, Anemia Mukt Bharat, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. And it's a large scale effort where we are, focusing to transform our India's food system, where people can be safe, be healthy, and at the same time, we include bring sustainable food practices in the Indian food system. So it goes in three pillars or three themes. Eat Right has the eat safe, eat healthy, and eat sustainable. What is eat safe? Ensuring personal and surrounding hygiene, sanitary practices, good food supply chain, combating adulteration, reducing toxins, contamination in the food. I mean, it's more related to the good hygiene practices and good manufacturing practices. While eat healthy is promoting diet diversity and balanced diet. So again, there is now an encouragement. You might have seen a lot of UN years are there, UN years for fruits, UN years for millets. So India, is blessed with all, good agricultural crops. It's not the rice and wheat alone, but we should have diet diversity, more fibrous food in our diet. Like the millets is one of the very good example. They are very nutritious and reduce trans fat food, especially the vanaspati, the dalda, all those things which can add the bad cholesterol, the VDL or the LDL. So because this is, going to create an unhealthy lifestyle. So that is the reason we always encourage to eat healthy. Reduce the intake of salt, sugar, and saturated fats. यानी कि तेल, चीनी, नमक कम. तेल, चीनी, नमक कम. यानी कि थोड़ा आज से थोड़ा कम. That is also one of our campaign. And promoting fortification of staples through addressing the micronutrient deficiencies like the iron, zinc, folic acid, etc. Eat sustainable, again, promote local and seasonal food, prevent food loss, food waste, conserve water in the food value, reduce the use of chemical, organic production. All such things, are part of the Eat Sustainable theme. So the main emphasis, here, which we have understood, is that the non-communicable diseases generally are happening due to these three: the high fat, high sugar, and high salt. High salt leads to hypertension, high sugar leads to diabetes, and high fat, can have cardiovascular challenges, including heart attack. So that's the reason, we encourage to go with this less or add less sugar, less salt, and less fat in the food preparation. And that is the reason we have this social media campaign where our Bollywood actor Rajkumar Rao has promoted this concept Aaj se thoda kam. You can see all such advertisement in the YouTube or in some of the commercials, where we want to encourage the consumers to gradually, we cannot stop at instance, but we can gradually advocate to reduce slowly and the consumption of salt, sugar, and fat in their day-to-day diet. And so many posters, so many campaigns are there where, the mantras are monitor, measure, avoid, reduce, replace, limit. All such, messages are there in many languages. It's not only English. You will go and see the SBCD division. There is a separate, dedicated website, Eat Right India website, where you can find a lot of literatures in multiple languages. Another area is the food fortification, which I already mentioned, the minute, minerals, very important for human life, like the iron, iodine. Many, in fact, the previous speaker was telling some of the adolescent girls, they lack iron. So a lot of anemia cases are happening. So iron, iodine, zinc, vitamin A, D are very essential for the human health, human life. And that is the reason fortification is happening. In fact, last Independence Day, speech, our honorable PMG, Prime Minister Sir, had mentioned, fortification is one of the best way to, improve the life of people. And you will find that there's a +F logo, which FSSA has made. If the food is fortified, then the FBO can put the +F logo. So fortification has been operationalized, the standards have been set, and all such programs are happening. It's not like FSSAI work alone. We have a lot of stakeholders like the FCI, like the Ministry of Food Processing, universities. हम सबको साथ लेके चलते हैं in our scientific panel, in our scientific discussions, so that we evolve a good standard that will be useful for the Indian consumers. So a separate, food fortification center is also there in the FSSA headquarters, where the main thrust is given to improve the nutritional quality and bring minimal risk to the health. So these are some of the, examples of vitamin A, D fortification happening in staple food, like in oil, in rice, in fortified salt, etc. And we are aligned to different ministries, as I said, ICDS, midday meal, public distribution system for this fortification of food program. And we are also, next thrust is, I would say not the next, but the ongoing thrust that is happening is the removal of trans fat, for which the regulation has come. And we are, incrementally, we started with 5%, it got to 3%, 2%. The ultimate aim is that we want a free trans fat India, because trans fat, bring bad cholesterol, VLDL, LDL, which can be linked to cardiovascular challenges. So a replacement for industrial trans fat, how we can, remove and bring some novel ways. Now, this is where the students can also work upon. If you have some good ideas, something which can bring some good cholesterol, good cholesterols as the HDL into our body, that will be great. So, so the current effort is through regulation, we have brought, to 2% and above. There should not be any trans fat in the food, and especially the industrial trans fat. And we educate not only the industry, but the consumers, the hotel chefs, different stakeholders in the bakery industry, where the trans fat, major trans fat also happens or is coming from there. And we also do surveillance time to time to see do a check what is happening in the trans fat scenario. So other, to just encourage the trans fat, a lot of campaign, heart attack rewind, 30-minute, 30 seconds public service announcement has been done. We also like to, educate what I had mentioned through the Eat Right India movement, the Edible Oil Association, Bakery Association, individual bakeries, chefs, where we are requesting to voluntarily, commit to reduce or eliminate the industrial trans fat by signing pledges in support of the initiative of FSSAI. So there are posters also how to eliminate the trans fat, just to give awareness, where that can be found, why it is bad, what it can cause. So such kind of things are there. So FSSAI, in a whole, we are meeting, we have a lot of programs like the FOSTAC, we have the cluster certification, we have the Bhog for the religious places, that is the blissful hygienic offering to God, that's the acronym. We have the Eat Right station, Eat Right campus. I would encourage the Vaishnav Vidyapeeth University or Vishwavidyalaya to become a Eat Right campus. Let you become a model. It's very easy. Go see the website Eat Right India, see how to become a campus. Very simple system. Just, you have to do a pre-audit and fill up the gap from the pre-audit and then do a actual audit. And then you get the Eat Right. So many of the universities, campuses are coming forward. So, this will be really good if Vaishnav Vidyapeeth also become a Eat Right. Now, it's very encouraging. You are doing a nutrition week. So with this, you also take a resolution that we become a Eat Right campus in the near future. So we have, building consumer awareness through Eat Right campus, Eat Right school. You might have seen a lot of books also, the yellow book, the purple book, the pink book for the ladies, the dart book. So there are many, guidance notes, books, food safety magic box. We have the food safety on wheels, the food fortification, the trans fat free, the RUCO. Now, this is again a big challenge, the used cooking oil. Some people, they keep using the same oil for frying different things. So they are not aware that this frying, constant frying is increasing the polar compounds, which is very dangerous. So there has to be certain cycles. So RUCO is one initiative, the used oil, cooking oil, there are people, agencies which collect and they are using it for some biodiesel manufacturing, for soap making, etc. We also have, as part of the food security, we have the Save Food and Share Food campaign, where any excess food, say from party or from this thing, sometimes, someone hosts a party or a marriage and excess food comes. So rather than throwing it in a dustbin or waste, there are people who are hungry. So there are agencies or collectors. So you can call that number, they will come and pick that food. So such Javik Bharat, then we also recently launched the Ayurvedic Ahar thing. So there are many initiatives of FSSAI that largely happens, through all involving the consumer, the food nutrition professional. We have the NetProfan. Maybe your college can become also an active member of the NetProfan. Just see in the website. We involve the policymakers, youth, scientists, farmers, business, because what we believe is, sabka saath, sabka sincere prayas. I will add one word, sincere. It's not prayas, sincere prayas. And tabhi hoga hum logon ka vikas. Then only we can, look forward for the development. So that has to come from the heart. It's not just a mere dialogue. What our Pradhan Mantri ji is telling, it comes from his heart. Many times he has emphasized on this. So this has to, be from the heart, and then we can develop. I have worked in various countries and I have seen how they, put their effort. That effort also is required. That is what our Pradhan Mantri ji is also looking, that we do a sincere prayas. And then, we can definitely bring, a good way, a good food ecosystem in the country. Now, little diversion again I will make here since it is a nutritional week and my expertise is on fruits and vegetables. If you see my profile, I'm basically a post-harvest fruits and vegetable, technologist. That's the science part. And I say to my students or to many of the, audience, color is power. So the rich diversity, what you see, especially fruits and vegetables, they have good antioxidant that should be consumed abundantly. So this is why, because all these antioxidants like the anthocyanin, the lycopene, the beta carotene, the allicin, they all contribute and has a very major effect to control this toxins. Whenever the body takes something, there is also the toxin comes. So this antioxidant neutralizes that. So it bombards with the toxin and leach away that. So it is really good or really helpful that a lot of this berries, cherries, carrot, citrus, broccoli, they are all has to be utilized and has to be consumed abundantly. You can see there is a chart that has been made, a pyramid made by a doctor, famous, a doctor in America, Dr. Joel, who has stated that there should not be any limit of consumption in vegetables, fruits, and legumes, but there should be a daily limit for whole grains, for fish and fat, twice, for poultry, oils, less, and for this rarely cheese, milk, processed food, and all. So what he did was he did a calculation, and he could find a Andy score. He developed the Andy score, aggregate nutrient density score, where you can see the largest nutrition density happens mostly in the fruits and vegetable, but very less in cola and French fries. You can see potato chips, that doesn't have any nutrition score. That is the Andy score. So something similar, Eat Right India also has come up with a plate where we are encouraging to have lots of fruits and vegetable with plenty of water. Then we say consume liberally, then consume adequate quantities, cereals and pulses, then fish, poultry consume moderately, then milk consume plenty, and consume the high fat, high drink. We are not discouraging, we are not saying to avoid, but we are saying to limit your consumption of this high fat or high sugar. And then we can have a plate like this, which will be very really good for something like this. Har Jeevan ko poshan karo. So my healthy plate should be more of fruits, vegetables. What is, you can see this is advertisement of the Ministry of Food Processing and Industry, and this should be ideal diet, but need to follow. And how we can link, Sustainable Development Goal 1, 2, 3, 6, 12. They all can be linked to the food safety and security. And the agenda of the UN or every country is progressing towards, the clock is ticking. Now we are in 2022, 8 more years left to meet the Sustainable Development Goals. And for that, many indicators are also being, focus area also has been kept. What should be the focus area for no poverty, zero hunger, good health, well-being. In fact, the previous speaker mentioned about the maternal mortality, infant mortality, what food. So all such things, are covered under the SDGs, where the emphasis is that no people should go hungry, should have good food, safe food, and ultimately all the 17 SDGs, when the purpose or the ultimate aim is to have a people, a hungerless people with no poverty. They should have all forms of dignity, equality. Then the planet should be protected for not only for us, but also for the future generation, which is talking about the sustainability. Partnership, hand in hand, implement the agenda through solid global partnership. And of course, peace. We all love peace. So peaceful, just and inclusive society and prosperity to have a prosperous, fulfilling life that brings harmony with nature. So I think this is my last slide. I encourage safe and nutritionally, and in fact, when I was writing, it came to be an acronym of my name. So are essential for human health and their well-being. And there is no food security without food safety. Adopt sustainable consumption patterns. Eat nutritionally dense food, mainly the fruits, vegetables, rich in antioxidants. Encourage nature-friendly food production. Avoid pesticides and antibiotics, where the contamination that can occur in the field should not go into the and follow good agricultural practices, manufacturing practices. Employ equitable livelihood, even from the small farmers. They are also working hard. That is their so livelihood. They should also be encouraged, and we should also buy from them. Food safety is based on science, so we have to respect science and we have to apply it always. And One Health approach can improve a lot in food safety. That is again just to this is related to AMR, or antimicrobial resistance. So the FAO, WHO, the UN has come up with this concept. One Health approach has to be followed. And ultimately, the three pillars, the eat safe, eat healthy, and eat sustainable, should always be part and parcel of our habits. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure to address the students and the faculty of Vaishnav Vidyapeeth. And now we can open up for questions. Thank you.
Yes, questions. Questions are coming in chat box. Lots of questions. So, ma'am, are you taking the questions?
Yes, ma'am. So there's a question which is a very much like needed. The need of the hour is, how do we spot adulterants in a sweet during the festival season? Actually, it is coming ahead. So can we do it like by seeing we can make out if it is adulterated or not?
Okay. I would like to share my screen here again. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, sir.
Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now I'll take you to some websites. Okay, just take you to, so there is, when you so you can see here, we have the food testing. There is a tab. And in the food testing tab, if you want to do a check, there are laboratories, food laboratories. So you can see here, there are primary food laboratories. There is a list. It keeps updating every month. Then you have the referral food lab, which is a kind of a third empire, I would say, that is also listed. So there are more than 200, 224, I'm not specific about the number. There are more than 200 labs across the country which are notified by FSSAI. So if there is any doubt, you can go and do a testing there. Or there are also some simple test, methods like the DART book. You can just do a search here and put a word like DART, D-A-R-T. So detection of adulteration rapid test. When you type, so you will find the book here with the rapid test. If it is a milk product, sugar, confectionery, quick test, sensory evaluation, all such things for different food categories are added here. So some simple things, which you can also perform at house, that can be done using the methods that is described here. Clear?
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So some questions are asked by the panel. Yes. Panel members? Any student want to ask the question?
And there's a network issue, I guess. So there's a one question.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a one question. Is there any adverse impact so far we have noticed of the fortified food? We are doing the fortification on a larger scale and we have identified the numbers of food product itself. So is there any of the adverse effect we have notified so far?
To my knowledge, no. There is no adverse effect of fortification. In fact, some people have apprehension, especially it is something, every time, whenever a new technology comes, even when we were used to in the inland and postcard era, when suddenly the mobile phone came, there was some apprehension, and then now people are using it. So this apprehension will be there for some time, but food fortification is safe. There is nothing wrong. And as I said, it is a science-based, FSI work on science. It is not like so there is a thorough deliberation happening. There are a lot of stakeholders involved, and they come up with the thing. And fortification is not for India. It is also practiced by different worldwide agencies like the World Food Program. They also advocate world fortification, especially in the African countries where there is, challenge of vitamin A or vitamin D in some cold countries where the sunlight is not much available. So in that way, fortification is a global, it's not pertaining to India, but a global process or a solution to amplify the micronutrient that is deficient generally in the food system to get into the food. Got it? So it is safe.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Okay. So there's one question. Yeah, question on IoT devices in our food will be help us to reduce the sugar, fat, and salt. It is, I think, related to the thoda kam se related hai. IoT devices they have mentioned.
If you can.
Yeah, question is not clear. It is Nasir Danani ji ka question.
Well, we welcome if there are something, we have an idea box. You can also, if you have an idea of IoT device, which can do wonders in bringing awareness, that will be great. So we do encourage such kind of devices. Again, I'll take you just, for the information of student, I hope my screen is still shared, or I will again share it. I hope you can see my screen again.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So again, back to the website, and you can also type, RAFT, RAFT. So RAFT is something rapid analytical food testing kit procedure method, which can bring some. So there is a, when you go to the food testing itself, you will find what are the kits, equipments that have been approved. So generally, if it is an idea which is worth pertaining to food safety, a food testing kit, equipment, method, which can rapidly, does the testing, and we have, given which are the applications that has been approved so far. So such kind of things can also be brought. I doubt whether IoT can be brought, but definitely if there is an idea, you can approach the SBCD division, which look after the awareness, eat right awareness and social behavioral change. So they can be brought to the notice. We have recently, I remember someone came up with the cart, a food cart for the street vendor, quite novel. And that person had approached, and I forwarded that mail to the SBCD division. Now they are looking into that matter. So something which is novel, innovative, which can bring a solution, that will be really great.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So while there were multi people have asked the same question. What are the possible adulterants used with the change of the season? They would like to know, are there any adulterants which they keep on recall, so that they can be aware that what would be the adulterant can be used after the changing of the season or during the changing of the season?
I mean, there is no adulterants are generally fixed. The chili powder generally is adulterated with brick powder, or sometimes the black pepper is adulterated with papaya seeds. So such kind of adulterant are pretty common. The purpose of adulteration is to increase the volume of food by decreasing the real food and replacing it with some, food. Even sometimes I have seen turmeric, the real haldi, they add some filler material like starch powder. They mix it. Now it increases the volume. So if there is 100-gram pure turmeric and the trader, he just want to use only 80 gram and save 20 gram of turmeric, he can use 20 gram of starch powder. So in a way, he saved, 20 grams. So likewise, if he does it for, 5-7 packet, he can, for 5 next packet, he can save 100 gram and he can make a cost. So adulteration, generally economic in nature, just to increase the volume. And many of the common adulterants, you can find it in the DART book. And there is no change with the season, the adulterant changes. But some new things like some preservatives, some people, they use formalin in fish and fishery products. These are some of the new which has come in the recent year. FSSAI, as and when something comes up, we take it up seriously and we issue the guidelines, and we also set the standards accordingly.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Actually, there's a dearth of material is available on the various sites. All we need to do is just check the website again and again to keep ourselves updated with the numbers of adulterants and all, right? So that we can escape ourselves from numbers of issues. And definitely, sir,
I'll just explain the students, since the students community are there. For the opportunities for the students, we also have the internship program, where we pay 10,000 rupees to the student for 2 months to 6 months, project. So again, you can do a search here. I hope my screen is still, you can see my screen still?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I'm just, typing, which can be very informative, like the internship. So this comes every month. So try to see this page, apply it online. And there is a selection process. If your application is quite good enough, then you can also enroll for the and work in FSSAI and see how the working happens. We also have the food analyst, examination that is conducted every year. So this also can be looked into. We also have, for licensing and registration, we have the Food Mitra scheme. I'm just, showing you the glimpse. It's an ocean Food Mitra, Safety Mitra, where they can also become a Food Safety Mitra by helping the FBO for registration or for doing the licensing. Of course, they have to undergo the course that is prescribed by the FSSAI, pass the exam, and then they can become a Food Safety Mitra. So there are different, avenues for the students which they can utilize.
Thank you, sir. So there is a question on gluten-free food. Actually, Chai and Goa have asked this question. But if this is in context of pregnant and breastfeeding people. But in general, if the gluten-free food, what is, in your opinion, what would be the impact of gluten-free food if it is consumed unnecessarily? Like people are keeping this as a trend to have a gluten-free food to reduce their weight, to control their diabetes, for the number of purposes. So is there any, yeah.
Gluten is, again, it is coming from the wheat. Now it's a protein which is made of two segment, which is the gliadin and the glutenin. These are the two components. And this gluten is the kind of, it brings the elasticity. When you see a atta, you can stretch it, the elasticity is happening through the gluten. Now, certain segment of people, it's not all, we all eat chapatis. It definitely has the gluten. Now, a simple procedure is आप आटा को गोंदो और उसको थोड़ा पानी में वो करते रहो. Ultimately, you will find a lump. That is gluten, which is insoluble, and it is or you just try to do is take some wheat grains and try to chew it. Ultimately, when you keep eating the wheat grain, it becomes a chewing gum. At the end, that is gluten. So it is kind of a elasticity, and some certain segment of the population, they are allergic. It's not all population. Generally, I have seen this kind of allergic reactions in the Western countries like US, Canada. So it is not going to have a big impact. It is intrinsic to food, and that is the reason FSSAI, encourage in the labeling display. One has to mention, in case if a person who is not tolerant or resistant to gluten, if accidentally happens to take, he or she can choke, or can develop some allergic reactions. So for that reason, you have the gluten. With gluten, you have this famous disease called as the celiac disease. And just type in the internet what is celiac, CELIAC, celiac disease. So these are some of the, it brings some suffocation and all, but not for, I would say, in percentage wise, hardly 2% of the population, 2 or 3% of the population might be gluten, Otherwise, most of us, we eat chapati, puri, every day that has gluten in it, and it is pretty safe. I mean, for the generic population, but for the population which is not
Celiac disease.
yeah.
Celiacs.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Again, the numbers of questions are still there, but I think there's again the repetition of the questions also. The people would like to know n numbers of things, so we can see the response from our participants. So definitely we'll keep on asking the questions again with due respect of your time and convenience.
Yeah.
Over to you, Dipali ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for such an informative session. It is very important to understand the difference between food safety and food security in today's world, and also the deep insights and working of FSSAI. Sir, sure, we will try to make Eat Right campus in our SWV.
Good.
Thank you so much, sir, once again. Now, I would like to invite Professor Uttam Sharma, sir, Coordinator, Shri Vaishnav Institute of Home Science, for vote of thanks. Sir, over to you.
Good afternoon to respected dignitaries on the dais, resource persons, and my dear participants and students to this National Nutrition Week celebration. On behalf of Shri Vaishnav Institute of Home Science, Department of Food and Nutrition, I would like to thank first of all to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Upinder Dhar, for giving us a constant encouragement and motivating us to promote such type of activities in the institute. I am also thankful to our first speaker, Dr. Pushpa Awasthi, Nutrition Officer, UNICEF India, for giving important insights and tips on the topic first 1000 days with focus on complementary feeding. Thank you, ma'am. I'm also thankful to our other respected dignitaries, Dr. Sanu Jacob, Director, Food Safety and Standard Authority of India, Southern Region, for the deep enlightenment on the topic food and nutrition, the FSSI perspective. Thank you very much, sir. We welcome you once again, and we hope a constant and continuous attachment with this institute and university from your side. I am thankful to Dr. Santosh Dhar, Dean FDSR, for her constant support and suggestions to organize such events. Thanks to all the respected speakers who will be speakers for the upcoming lectures from 1st to this 7th of September, Dr. Preeti Shukla, Dr. Venu Gopal, Dr. Subba Rao, Dr. Munira Hussain, and Dr. Shubhangini Joshi. The important part of this National Nutrition Week celebrations are, of course, the participants and my dear students. So thanks to all the participants across the country and globe and students of this institute and university for participating in this National Nutrition Week. Thanks to all the students, and a big thanks to the convener of the event, Dr. Deepali Saxena and Dr. Sweta Keswani. And I hope they will be continuing with this mode to organize such a nice event in the future also. So thanks to all for this beginning session of the National Nutrition Week with a fantastic and excellent deliberation by Dr. Sanu Jacob and Dr. Pushpa Avasthi. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to request technical team to play national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Thank you, technical team. Thank you all for giving your valuable time. Now, we meet on 3rd September, 11:30 a.m. with third lecture of the series.
Yeah,
This
thanks
this
from my
con-
side to the technical committee also for their excellent support. Thanks to Shadab sir and his team. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes the first day of the National Nutrition Week 2022. Happy Nutrition Month once again. Thank you.
We would like to request to everyone, feedback link is there in the chat box. We would like to receive your feedback of the program so that we can serve in a more elaborate manner. Thank you all.
ठीक है भाई शादाब जी, आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। पूरी टीम का, आपके साथ में तेलंग सर का, CHM सेल में जो लोग भी सब,
सर परवेज सर,
आपको तो जरूरत पड़ती नहीं थैंक्स की, लेकिन पार्ट ऑफ द ड्यूटी। थैंक यू। ओके
Sir, thank you so much.
ठीक है मैडम, थैंक यू। मैं दूसरी
Thank
मीटिंग में जाता हूँ।
Thank you.
ओके।